Today we'll discuss something that's not often thought about, but is so obvious to people who are deeply involved with what we call God, the Almighty. Divine Providence is what we're going to discuss. There are certainly conditions called illumination, spirituality. There are highly intuitive people throughout the world that understand many things. There are many, many psychics, and they're all relevant, and it works. Point being that being psychic to a person who's an incarnate being who believes they're a human being in the world at this time is so easy, and it is the infinite opposite of spirituality. And of course we can always see the dearly departed, someone's aunt or uncle, and tell them what kind of dress they wore, and this is the opposite of spirituality. It's nice to do that when you're around people or family and everyone has a sensitive in their family or friend, and that's sweet. But it's not God. It's not spiritual awareness. It's not you or I being aware of that which we call God. The reason it's said so emphatically is that if we're aware of that which we call God, in your consciousness, the world that seems to be doesn't exist. That's the first touch, the first hint, the first hairline apprehension of spiritual awareness. There is a God, and God actually is God. But none of the thoughts about God that I'm familiar with in this world are of God. God is of God. The world never was. Every spiritual intuitive, every great soul, like Gandhi called him, he had that experience called nirvana, and yet lived in the rough of it every day to do his part. We all do our part. But that higher consciousness is a higher consciousness. Everything that seems to be is not, and never was. Clothes, people, times, awareness, psychology, intuition, anything. Nothing exists in the phenomenological world. There are different words for it. It's like a kaleidoscopic this and that, and the different subject matters or different personality types, and there are many, many studies that help you understand one another. Like I say, personality types, there are many, many dozens of these areas of human awareness that we can study that help you get a hold of yourself and help you communicate with others, but it's not at all involved with that which we'll call God. We'll call God because the actual God is beyond all thought. It's beyond all expression. It's beyond experience. But as soon as you step into that, you stop being, and God just is. It's a wondrous state. In other words, this is the very first hairline indication of spirituality, is when you die to yourself. You neither need, nor want, nor desire, or even care. It's something beyond all these human terms of conscious apprehension of reality. It's always more, always more. It's always there. It's always there. It's never not been there throughout your life, this life, in this world. This higher awareness has always been. And when you have direct experience of it, doesn't matter if you're 6 years old or 79 years old or 23, or you died just last night and don't know it yet, which certainly happens. None of this ever was in spiritual consciousness. The world that seems to be actually is a hell. It's a delusion, an illusion. They always call it in those involved in deeper meditation. The world itself is an illusion. It's not even a way station through eternity like the religious person might have it. You don't go to heaven just upon the elbow of someone you help. That's a wonderful thought. But spiritual people, all they do is help and care and give. But they bleed, and they bleed, and they bleed. That's the higher thought of the crucifixion. And yet you still love. And then you ascend. There is a higher consciousness. We've all been aware of it, been touched by it, sanctified by it. But if we want to change anything, if we want to heal anyone, if we want to give our mom back what she gave, we die to ourselves. And this isn't a strict religious self-denial. It's not being lost anymore. It's choosing life. It's being a better human being by not just leaps and bounds, by eternity. You talk about, listening to the higher angels or the better angels of your heart, of your soul, of your mind, And there are angels. And they are better than our heart, or our soul, or our mind, or our soul. There aren't individuated souls. There's God consciousness. Staying with this one line of awareness throughout this spiritual empowerment, with the hope that understanding these things can help us step right out of the nightmare into the light. It's always been throughout our life. There is no time in spiritual consciousness. When you sit down many afternoons in your chair and you kind of disappear for an hour or 20 minutes or 4 hours. Or you need sleep and you just close your eyes a couple minutes and all of a sudden you wake up, you thought you needed 2 nights sleep and you're completely refreshed. You've simply left your body, your bodily consciousness for a moment. At the same time, if you're deeply spiritual, you're going to spend many hours a day in your chair and you're sitting, wherever, walking and disappearing into the light. You might be driving your car down the highway and you're not really there. You're completely capable of doing everything. You're watched over by the light, but not even watched over. You see what I'm saying? These words are insufficient. Experience is insufficient. There is no experience. There are no thoughts, feelings, certainly no acts of contrition or otherwise. There's just a simplicity, this softly lilted air that just glows so lightly. That's the very beginning touch of your soul. And there's one soul, because there's one God. Again, we see the words are insufficient. That which we call God, yes, is God. It's divine providence, but the first touch of it, of God's garment, of this reality of spiritual awareness, is all the thoughts you ever had, all the theology, all the spiritual conceptions or even experiences of it disappear. It's so much more. So yes, it's God, but so much more. Oceans and oceans of a softly lit noonday sky begin to touch poetically, we could say again, none of this matters. There never was a poet or a song or a time or a place or a theme or a person or a world. It never was. Only this lightness, that is you. And there's nothing can be said about it, and you can't think about it. There is no thinking. There's nothing we could call perception. You disappear and become all that it is. There's no possibility of perceiving this. It's not a confluence of great oceanic reservoir reserves of presence and glory. All that might be, but that's not it. It's infinitely more direct than that. As the old adepts have always said, and those who are adept at meditation and prayer and spiritual reflection have always said that the world is an illusion. But it's not even that. And there's no term of illusion that exists. There's only this that is. Your life did not occur. You were not born. No one ever died. You cannot die. That's impossible. If you start stuffing your mind with fears of war and woe and famine and whatever, no, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it, stop thinking. Can't you see him? And it's not just at the break of dawn, the new day, the wonder, the innocence. The innocence of the newborn is simply a touchstone of, oh, but it's, imagine that times infinity. I can't say times 100 million or a trillion or a septillion. You'd have to say that times infinity, times infinity, times infinity. And that's how delicate and pure you are. So this thing that occurs, this illusion, never was. You never were. I am not. We don't exist. And yes, it's wonderful to die to your own set of rules, principles, to die to your own perception. It's wonderful. And that's what's being discussed, even though it never was, and this can't be, and isn't. Neither the sun, the moon, nor the stars. Just this softly lit haze. First touch of love or dawn. The first caress. Times many infinities. Does not touch the simplicity of you. It's yours. It's always been you. Can't just say fear not and trudge on forward. Everyone out there is going to have to at some moment, because there is divine providence, they're going to have to shut it down, turn it off, be quiet. If they can't be still, they'll be stilled. This can't go on forever. You're not meant to live in torment, or pain, or fear. These aren't just the infinite opposite of God, they don't exist. And it's up to us, the wise one, to contemplate the majesty of that which we are. It's beyond spiritual consciousness, but not beyond the meditation of the sage, meaning the wise one, meaning you. Those words were taken from the Rig Veda, written several thousand years ago in Sanskrit. It's not beyond the meditation of the sage, meaning the wise one, meaning you. And yet it's beyond. And the Vedas never were, nor India, nor time, nor places, nor thoughts, or conceptions. Say this infinite innocence, the real you. That's the first touch of remembrance. And it goes up in a puff. And there you are. Looking at it from the other side, excuse me, if you'll study all the different illumination experiences that human beings have had, poets, whatever, writers, moms have had of those they love. All that is in love what it is, but it's not this. That's why the Buddha, after his illumination, he was asked by his disciple something, and he just raised a finger. And if we get that, we get that. Please get that. And give no more to the ugliness. Fear not. Know that they will be shut down permanently during your time. And the moment you step apart from time into timelessness, you'll see this. You'll know this. You are this. Never again believe a lie. The world is the illusion, meaning a lie. Give it nothing. Want nothing. Experience nothing. And then you'll see him as he is. There's one God. And it's in your experience to let go of everything, whatever words you want to use, in your awareness, in your consciousness. And then that is will meet you and greet you. And you'll become that always was. Thank you. Thank you for listening.